Hello and welcome to another edition of It's Your City. I'm Bob Crowell, and I have the honor and privilege of being the mayor of the greatest city in Nevada, our very own capital, Carson City. As you know, every couple of weeks after a board meeting, I tape a show called for Access TV. It's called It's Your City. And so I'd like to spend a couple of minutes today going over what happened at the last board meeting and to talk about some other things going on around the community. Let me say that the board meeting was held instead of on a Thursday meeting. It was held on Tuesday to canvass the vote, which is required by state law. So we combined the canvass the vote meeting with the regular board meetings. That's why it was held on the 13th of November. A couple things before I get to the board meeting that you probably heard about or looked at or heard about during the interim here was burning issues, leaf burning issues in our community. The fire chief put out a notice that we would not permit burning of leaves at our home for the fall cleanup, and the reason for that was, in his words, was it's nice to accommodate people who wanted to do that, but we're very concerned about the public safety issue with respect to burning leaves, and there have been a couple instances where, as the chief mentioned during our board meeting, where a fire, burning of leaves was thought to be out by the homeowner and actually wasn't, and so just on erring on the side of caution, we did not allow burning of leaves at your home in the urban area in Carson City. And I know that some people are concerned about that, but as you probably tell, when we have red flag days and high winds, there's a danger of substantial property damage. Let me also say that if you try to get a hold of the city, get a hold of any of the Board of Supervisors or the city, I think over the weekend the city transitioned its email and system from Novell, the group-wise system, to a Microsoft system, and so they've been working over the weekend. I'm led to believe that we shouldn't have lost any emails, but if you did get an email, it got bounced back. That's the reason. Please bear with us and resend the email, but it'll take a little bit of time for us. If the emails didn't get bounced, and we have a lot of emails, it'll take a little while to get some answers to those emails if there's an answer required or requested. So those are a couple things happening. Let me talk about some things at the board meeting. First, we had a great presentation from Kurt Meyer, who runs the Aquatic Center here in Carson City, where we were pleased to recognize the Hampton Inn for donating a substantial amount of fitness equipment to the fitness center at the Aquatic Center. As Kurt said, it's about a $20,000 donation. That's a big donation for our community, and so we want to thank Hampton Inn for making that donation and helping us improve our recreation facilities and the fitness of our residents in Carson City. We also, on the 13th, at the last board meeting, canvassed the vote, which is where you receive a report from the recorder, which, as we all know in this community, is Alan Glover, who talks about, who presents a report to us about the number of people who voted, the number who voted in each election. In each election that's on the ballot, and that the board undertook to approve the canvass of the vote as presented by Mr. Glover. There are a couple interesting things that we always get when the canvass of the vote comes up. One is fleeing voters, and as you probably heard me speak a couple of years ago, what is a fleeing voter? Well, a fleeing voter is one who comes up to the counter, asks to gets a voter card, and then doesn't show up, doesn't vote. That's called a fleeing voter, and why that happens, I don't know, but it doesn't happen very often, by the way. I think Alan said it maybe 5 this total time, but it's an interesting phenomenon where people will come in and sign in and actually not vote. Another thing that was brought up by Supervisor McKenna, which is kind of interesting in presidential election years, is that the number of undervotes increases in a number of elections during a presidential year, and that means that a lot of people come in there, and Alan Glover, the recorder, actually went in depth about this a little bit, that every 4 years when there's a presidential election, there will be a lot of people who will come just to vote for in that election, and will not vote in the down ballot races. In fact, if you look at some of the undervote in some of the undervote in the presidential races, maybe about 300 people didn't vote for the president or in the presidential race. And that number goes up to somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 when you get down ballot, which is just an interesting phenomena that a lot of people come in during the presidential time and vote just for that one particular purpose. The other thing is that Alan indicated that we had a voter turnout in Carson City of just shy of 80%, which is huge. It's not as big as it was a couple of years ago, but it speaks to the effort that our community citizens give to and the importance of voting in our community. That's a large percentage of our registered voters who turn out to vote. Alan also indicated that there's, we have 46% of our population are registered to vote. While that may seem like a low number, 46%, that's just a percentage of the total population we have in the community, which doesn't take into account other things such as, children who are not eligible to vote. So actually, when you match it, what Alan said when we asked the question, when you actually take the number of registered voters to the number of eligible voters, we're probably well up around 70% in that area, which is extremely good. And I think Carson City can be proud that among all the jurisdictions in the state, we're probably one of the highest in voter registration per population, and we're one of the, I think, definitely the highest, if not the highest in the state on voter participation during the election. So my hat's off to each and every one of you for engaging in the democratic process in our community. We also, at the last board meeting, took a look at, got our quarterly update on things happening around, on revenues and expenses and what's happening with the fire department in terms of calls and the sheriff's office. We do that, and that document is our quarterly business plan. You can see that document. It's on the city website to take a look at how we're doing. We monitor a lot of different items, areas in our community with respect to, one, what are the costs associated with it? What are the revenues associated with it? How are we doing with respect to our target levels of consumer satisfaction, or in our case, customer satisfaction? And a couple things stand out. One, we heard from the sheriff that crime in our community, although you get some blips, we've had some, as the sheriff said, some problems with people shoving each other. That's gone up a little bit, but hopefully that's on its way down. Also, there's been a kind of a rash in some vehicle burglaries. But if you exclude those, crime in our community is either stabilized or is on the downward trend, as it has been for a number of years. So that's a good thing. The sheriff, along with the fire chief, also indicated that, since 2010, when we did some major layoffs and other cost-saving measures for both those departments, that overtime is starting to creep back in order to maintain service levels in both the fire department and the sheriff's office. We'll be having to take a look at those issues in more detail. I know that both the sheriff and the fire chief keep very detailed records on manpower utilization, probably better than when I looked at particularly when I looked at what the sheriff does. They keep extremely detailed records on that, and they know right down pretty close as to what's causing overtime issues. So we'll be taking a look at that and see if there's anything we can do to change staffing levels or do whatever we can think of in order to contain the overtime costs and still provide a quality of service. And while we talk about that, the sheriff indicated that his response time, the average response time for the police in our community is somewhere between 3 to 7 minutes to an incident. That's certainly, as the sheriff indicated, we want our law enforcement folks on scene just as quick as possible. And so even though we say there's a 3 to 7 minute response time, if we could make that, closer to zero, that'd be even better yet. But that's, we want to, that is a pretty good response time in terms of servicing our constituents. It's the same thing on with the fire, and it's actually about the same amount of response time, and we're very we should all be thankful in our community that we have a great response time from our first responders, and that includes our fire and our police corps, as well as when we have incidents that call for the use of our public works personnel. So that's a good thing. The chief also indicated that we've had a number of our fire personnel be sent to other areas, particularly other states and other jurisdictions in Nevada to fight fires. And our firemen have performed admirably, and I think that you probably saw, at the last board meeting, we complimented 3 firemen who were at the Salmon River Complex fire. We are in the process of getting the time for those individuals billed, and the chief indicates that that's about $250,000 that we'll be getting in for, when we send folks to different areas, we do get paid for that. On the other side of things, Carson City, we've entered into mutual aid agreements, particularly on the fire side, with our surrounding counties to help respond to emergencies where we're unable to do so in our community. And as Supervisor Aldean mentioned, there is, when you look at the actual tracking of mutual aid, where we've provided mutual aid to another county and where other counties have provided to us, we have actually been utilizing other county services much more than we've been giving, which is an indication that the staffing levels are down in our community as a result of cost-saving measures. But it's also speaks to the benefit of entering into these mutual aid agreements, where we can regionalize services and obtain some degree of economies of scale and efficiencies to provide good service throughout our region. But that's something we want to take a look at. On sales tax revenues are generally, we projected they'd go up about 3% this year. They are about on track to do that. So that's a good thing, that we're mostly on budget with respect to the projection of sales tax revenues, and hopefully that will continue through the rest of this year. I wanted to say something else on sales tax, but I wanted to say this on sales tax. Apologize for putting my glasses on there to read my notes, but collections of sales taxes, which are also important, are generally up about the same amount as we budgeted, just about 3%. And it looks like things are holding, particularly with respect to our automobile sales in our community. A couple other things going on outside of the board. By the time you see this, there will be the Nevada Association of Counties will have held its annual convention in Carson City at the Carson City Nugget, where we'll have each of the county representatives come for their annual meeting. There'll be 2 days of learning workshops and things of that nature going on in Carson City. And then on Friday, there's the League of Cities is having a summit workshop here in Carson City, also at the Nugget, where they'll be talking between not just counties, as the Nevada Association of Counties are counties, but also the League of Cities will be here, so there'll be a blending of both county interests and city interests to come to a summit to get ready for the upcoming legislative session. That's about it going on. Coming up on Thanksgiving this year, and I want to wish everybody, because I don't think we're going to have another board meeting before that, but I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, a happy, safe Thanksgiving. It's a time when families get together and share in giving to each other, and it's also a time when our community comes out and shares in giving to those who are in need. And so, one, let's all have a happy Thanksgiving, a good Thanksgiving, and remember that there are our friends and that there may be some of our friends and neighbors who also need help. So let's see if we can make a good Thanksgiving for everybody in our community. And let me close with saying that I want to say again, and I can't say this often enough, thanks to each and every one of you for what you do to make our community a better place to live, work, and play. And I'm sure that when Thanksgiving comes around this time, what I just said will be amplified multiple times. And so again, thank you, and I'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Thank you.